Good morning, hockey fans. This is Stephen Heisler with JuniorHockey.io, the Victorious Hockey Company, the wild and crazy junior hockey discussion group on Facebook. You are watching the Junior Hockey Morning Show. We are on the World Sports Broadcasting Network, WSBN.TV, Facebook, X, YouTube. Tommy, no mistakes this morning. Believe that. Today is January 15th, Wednesday. Lot on the plate this morning. Had to bring in Eric Ballard, the Jackson Hole kid. Are you skiing in Jackson Hole or just doing hockey?
No, I'm just doing hockey, buddy. Never skied a day in my life.
Yeah. Last time I went skiing, I almost killed myself. Thought maybe I have more courage than I have brains. Not a good combination to be on the ski slope.
Not a good combination at our age, and I have zero ambition to ski. So
that was a long time ago. I learned a lesson that day. Alyeska, yeah. Fun times. All right. So you read the article this morning, late last night when it went out at 1 a.m. Eastern. You saw that we may be off our rocker. We're talking about a rumor flying around the Midwest regarding the USHL going into two current North American Hockey League cities. That's how the rumor started. But as we dug into it more, it was one NAHL city and one NA3HL city. And we'll get into that this morning. Eric, we've been dealing with rumors. This time, we call it silly season in hockey in the springtime. Changes, coaches flying around all over the place. But it's been a long time since we had a USHL team go backwards. It's been a long time. I think you go back to Fargo Moorhead the last time that a USHL team took over an NA market. And then Youngstown did it, right? When they went from the NA to the Youngstown Phantoms. So what do you think about this?
I think this whole NCAA, CHL, NIL, changing the landscape on a daily basis, and hang on. It's going to be interesting. I'm not 100% convinced that these two markets that we're going to talk about can come back. They were both former USHL markets at one point, but like you said the silly season. Usually the silly season's March. It's always been done in March, and this year it's gotten it happened before Christmas. So it's got a lot of people clamoring, and everybody's kind of just grasping for straws and trying to figure it out and trying to figure out the landscape and who's got the better mousetrap. So yeah, it's been. I mean, I've had a tub of popcorn the entire time for the last 7 weeks, just seeing where everything goes.
I think this whole shakeup really started last fall, right? When the Brooks Bandits and those guys from Alberta jumped mid-season to the BCHL. Earlier this season, we had teams from the Eastern Hockey League or clubs jump to the USPHL from the EHL. So a lot is going on right now, and there's a lot of turmoil in the game. But I think in the end, it's going to make for better hockey and better college hockey for sure. The teams that we're talking about today are Youngstown and Muskegon are in the USHL. They're currently trying to get into the OHL, Ontario Hockey League, and USA Hockey has denied that change. So instead of losing membership, and that's kind of what the thought process was behind that, I think the plan now may be to relocate that membership into these two markets. The problem is that Mason City is operated by the owner of the Lincoln Stars. And that lease in Lincoln was in question. Now they got it extended, I think, for 5 more years. So that could make room for Muskegon to go to North Iowa. And the thought process is that Youngstown would go into Rochester. Rochester, it was a good market for a long time in the USHL. It did okay as a Minnesota Junior Hockey League team for a number of years. Now it's really picked up with the Grizzlies in the NA3HL, averaging in excess of 1,000 fans a game. You have to believe, Eric, that's a good sign.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, geez, I was around years ago coaching my junior B team in the Minnesota League when Danny Nashorn was the owner for the Rochester Mustangs. And did a couple Rozo guy, Roscoe. Roscoe was coaching that team in Des Moines and just that whole circuit down there. And they were doing really well. The Rochester Mustangs, it's a great building. It's right centrally located in a good spot. You've got 3 high schools within a stone's throw away. And those junior teams, the Minnesota Ice Hawks picked up after the Mustangs left. And with Fadis group, Doc Fadis and Nick Fadis, and they did a good job. I mean, they were putting a lot of people in the stands, and they picked up a market that was a USHL market, and people wanted the entertainment value. So Rochester makes a lot of sense. It really does. And the city's Rochester's growing, so to have another USHL team in Rochester is not a far-fetched pipe dream at all.
How far of a drive is it from Rochester to the cities?
Rochester City about an hour and a half, depending on where you're heading to cities. Hour and a half to 2 hours. Yeah, it's everything. I mean, at that time, Rochester, they had the Mustangs, and you had the St. Paul Vulcans. And the St. Paul Vulcans were in the metropolitan area in Minneapolis. So, it's not a bad drive at all. It's not Lincoln or Tri-City all the way to Youngstown. That's for sure.
And you have to admit, for the USHL partners in that division with Youngstown and Muskegon, they're going to be probably warmly receiving the idea of those 2 memberships moving closer to the mass of the league. What do you think?
Oh, there's no question. Now you're talking about single game sets. You're talking about bus trips that you're heading over to play a game and turning around, coming home immediately after the game. And the old USHL league years ago, Sioux City, Des Moines, Waterloo, all those teams, that wasn't an overnight league. That was, in and out. And I think having those connecting points, again, easily to connect, some of the Eastern teams, Cedar Rapids, Youngstown, Muskegon, Dubuque, have some of those Eastern teams more connected to your Tri-City, your Lincoln, and your Omaha, with some, middle teams, just not Des Moines. It makes total sense.
You bring the league closer together, it reduces costs for everybody. It makes it a little bit easier for development. Kids are back in their own beds. Always good to be back in your own bed. So there's a lot of pluses to that. So along this same conversation today, I learned more about the story of additional Big Ten schools going to Division I hockey. Now they would go Division I in both men's and women's hockey. And that's Northwestern, Indiana, Purdue, and Iowa. Was there one more? Was it 4? I think there's 4. So Northwestern, Indiana, Purdue, and Iowa, and Illinois would all be going Division I within the next 24 to 36 months. Now, for everybody outside of Iowa, we know Iowa's got a rink right there in town, easy to reach. But where do the other schools go to? Where does Northwestern decide they're going to be playing out of in the Chicagoland area? What's in Purdue's area to play, in Indiana's area to play? It's all good questions. We know Illinois has got a big building ready to go for them. So how far are we away from Big Ten hockey being a full member, all-member league? Eric?
But 24 to 36 months is not far-fetched at all. Greg Powers did it down at ASU. ASU played at Oceanside. Oceanside was a retrofitted, maybe a grocery store. I don't even know what it was. And you know what? And Greg did a great job. And now look what they're playing at the Mullet Center. And, listen, it can happen. And at the NCAA Division I level, you have a ton of boosters, right? There's a ton of alumni. When I was coaching ACHA hockey at CU Boulder, they built a $200 million champion center for the football team, lactic acid cons and new weight rooms, and just listen, when universities get involved and the alumni gets involved, things move a lot quicker than your junior teams and trying to build facilities. So if those markets don't currently have facilities, those universities will find that $25-30 million to put something up, and it won't take long.
In those discussions with one North American Hockey League coach today, we were talking about the prospects of players at the junior level actually getting paid to be there. And we know they're getting paid somewhat in the OHL, Western Hockey League, and the Q. How is the USHL going to compete with that? Are they going to pay players? Is NIL level money coming to junior hockey? And you know what? At first, I thought that question was far-fetched. But now you think about it, we're probably not far away from that, are we?
No. Listen, at the end of the day, the NIL is going to change the landscape dramatically. The NIL is even sneaking into, amateur stuff as far as high school stuff. Now high school stuff is, skates and gloves and sticks and equipment as opposed to financial compensation. You see that coming here real soon too. The NIL is going to change the landscape. There's no question. And it already has really, the rumors of, players being offered $1 million to play at Boston College.
Crazy.
It's just, and again, it's the haves and have-nots. It's the programs and the universities with the resources that are going to completely benefit from this. But the college hockey is going to change dramatically over the next 3 to 5 years. And don't be surprised. You've talked about it. We've talked about it on the show. That Western, the Western side, with the California and the North American Hockey League potentially going out there. I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see Stanford and Oregon, Fresno State, UCLA, USC to decide to put NCAA college hockey in their facilities as well. So it's going to keep growing. The next 10 years, and 10 years from now, if we're still, not pushing up daisies, I'd like to see how we have a show in 10 years about college hockey.
Speaking of Daisy, that's my wife. Me around all the time, so we get used to that. I think the Big Ten's in better position than most of the other football conferences, really. To do that, they're closer to it now. They've already started, but to get 100% of the membership involved in the sport, I think it's big for college hockey. We keep hearing about Arizona being next, UNLV being up there, Liberty. Getting more schools in the West is very good for our friends in Alaska. They definitely need a West Coast league. So that's exciting to see and to hear, and we'll see what happens. The game is changing as we speak. Every day we hear new stuff coming out, and it really makes us have to wonder, we're talking about 2008 players now, 2009 players. What is the game going to be like when they're ready to get out of junior hockey and out of youth hockey and get into college? God only knows, Are we going to be the same as football, where college football players don't go to the NFL because they get more money in college? Is that going to happen to hockey? It's yet to be seen. Eric?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I don't have the answer for that. There's no crystal ball on that one, but I think money drives a lot of this, right? So your top end players, they're not going to spend a lot of time in college hockey because those agents and the agencies they are represented by, they want their percentages too. So there's going to be a lot more money, in the NHL, maybe not so much at entry level, American Hockey League and those contracts. But if they're the Connor McDavids of the world, because they produce that every year, those guys are going to be put in the NHL because the agencies are going to want their 4% or whatever they're at now. That makes more sense. So the top end, you're still going to see the 2% keep moving up, but it's going to be an interesting landscape. I'm excited to watch it from afar, just for the simple fact is I think the navigation piece is going to be tough for everybody. I talked to a USHL GM about 3 weeks ago, over the holiday break between Christmas and New Year's, kids wanting to leave and go, major junior, OHL, Western Hockey League, wherever they're from. And they're reeling too, right? The USHL's been a powerhouse. It's been the top league in the US for years. And, they're losing guys to major junior now. So it's very interesting. I'm not sure I'd want to be in the industry at that level at this point, but there's no question. Hang on. It's going to be fun. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out over the next, they said 24 to 36 months for sure.
Last 10 seconds, Eric. Hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. For all you at home, hope that you enjoy your morning coffee and have a